So now let's look at the example program to find the largest value from a list of numbers as an object-oriented program. So you see the code is somewhat similar. We've still got the same stuff going on up here, setting the maximum value. But here we've now got this, we've got a class. Okay, so this class, which is sort of this part of the code, is creating an object. This object is going to contain all the data and all the behavior that we need for this application or for this program, for this finding the largest value from a list of numbers. We've still got the tmain down here. Okay, the main stuff, it's doing that down here, and we've still got some lines of code running in here. But now this is using the class. So let's just have a quick look at the class first. So we've declared some stuff up here. We'll give it the name. So list of values is the name of this class. We set up the array the same size. This is what we call a constructor. Now, every time we create an instance of an object, so we have an object but we don't actually have any copies of that object yet. So when we create a copy of the object, this runs. And when it runs, it calls this method. Okay, now this is different terminology. I'm now calling these methods rather than procedures or functions, because that's the terminology we use with regards to a class. So we call the initList method, which runs this bit of code here. And again, we go through a loop, creating a random value and putting it into the list. When we finished, we go up here and then there's no more code here. That's it, done. So at that point, it stops. Okay, so this bit of code creates an instance of our list, and when we create that, the list automatically sets itself up with the random values. So we've done that line. The next line now is again the print function. Now this print function in here calls the method of the instance that we've created of the object, find largest value. Now the instance we've called list. Okay, so list is an instance of the list of values class. So we call the find largest value method of list. So when we do that, it comes in here and it runs this method here, which does the same sort of stuff again as last time. It creates a loop, loops around looking for the largest value, and then when it does, it sends it back to here. So let's just run that through them. Okay, so we started with our main function again. And the first thing we're going to do in main is create an instance of our list values type. Okay, so when we do that, we see it comes in here, calls initList. We run initList again. It's going to go through 20 times, creating random values, putting them into the list. So we've got some random values. Well, we'll say random. They're randomish. And you'll see why I say that in a bit. So when we've quit out of that. So now we've created this instance called list of this class, list value. Now we're going to call the find largest value method of the list instance. So let's just do that. Okay, and again it goes through the loop, finding the largest value, and when it finds the largest value, it will return it to us so we can output it. Okay, so it's returned 29,358, bit like the last one that we run. Okay, so when we do that, we output the value 29,358. Okay, so ignore that bit because we don't need to debug that. So what's the difference here really between this and the procedural program that does the same thing? Well, in this one, let's say I want to create another list. Okay, so I'm going to create another list. And I'll call this list 2. Okay, so now I have 2 instances of the list of values class. One called list and one called list 2. So now let's say I want to output the largest value in list 2 is, and then okay, just set the format in here. Okay, we'll go into this in more detail when we start to look at the programming. So now I'm going to call the method of list 2. I'm going to call find largest value. Okay, so I've now got 2 instances. Okay, so let's just compile that. Yep, got it right. So let's just run it through. So I'm just going to step over this time so I don't go into the creating. So I've created one list and now I've created a second list. And if I output the random value from the first list, 29,358, and then I'm going to output the second one. The largest value from list 2 is 32,391. Okay, so we've got 2 instances of the list of values class, and they've each got their own data. Okay, one's got 29,358 as its largest value, and one's got 32,391, and that data is separate. We can't, list 2 does not know about any of the data in list 1. It can't use it, can't change it. It can't change it whether on purpose or even by accident or in error, which means the program's more robust. Okay, we can't accidentally manipulate the data in the other classes. Okay, so we've just loaded back up now the procedural code for the same thing. So what we're going to do now, if we want to add a second list. So what we need to do is we need to create a second list. Here we go, list 2. And well, I've got now 2 functions that initialize the list and found the largest value. Well, how am I going to get these to look at the second list? Well, I could say, let's just change this to say look at list 2. But then if I look at list 2, how do I look at list 1? Well, okay, so let's just copy this code and paste this code. Find list values 2, init array 2. Okay, so let's change this code. So wherever it's that looks at list of values, we have to change it to look at list of values 2. Okay, list of values 2. Okay, list of values 2. And then in our main function, we're going to have to call init array 2. Okay, we're going to have to call the print function twice. This time find largest value 2. Oops, 2. Okay, we're going to have to duplicate the declarations. So number 2, 2. Okay, so we've got 2 lists. We're calling init array here and init array 2. Then find largest value and find largest value 2. Okay, so we've got init array, find largest value. Okay, so let's see if that works, does it? Yep. Okay, so let's just step through this then and see it running. Okay, so I'm not going to step into the init array because that'll take a while, so let's just see what runs. So find largest value. So it's going to find largest value for the first one, 29,358. Okay, then find largest value 2 is going to get called 26,962. Okay, so you can see we've now doubled that up. Okay, so what about if we've got, I don't know, let's say we had 10 lists or 100 lists. Okay, you're going to have to keep copying and pasting this. And I don't know if you noticed, but there was a deliberate mistake. Okay, so max value wasn't actually correct because I forgot to change that bit of code. Okay, imagine doing that for 10 lists or 100 lists. Okay, you could easily make a mistake. So let's just run it through again, just to see what we got. Okay, okay, now we've got the right answer. 29,358 for the first random-ish number, and 32,391 for the second random number. That's a bit more correct. Okay, so we can see our errors easily crept into the procedural one because of the duplication, whereas in the object one, we simply programmed it once and reused the object. So this reuse of code and this reuse of the object is a key benefit of using the object-oriented method of programming.